Well, Kostas, thanks very much for joining me on the program. You know, I normally don't do a Cam and Company on Friday, and this is going to be a little bit different format.
Why? What happened?
Well, normally I just yeah. What happened?
Welcome to California, Cam. Welcome to California.
South New York,
First
East
time.
California. Yeah. So Governor Abigail Spanberger did what we expected her to do. She signed the gun and magazine ban bill into effect. And literally before the ink was dry, we saw lawsuits filed in state and federal court, NRA, FPC, SAF, all filing suit together, challenging this gun and magazine ban. And you were gracious enough to come on today to talk about that new filing. Before we get into it, I have to ask, though, you've seen the governor's statement that was released today about why she signed this bill. And she talked again about, weapons that are designed for maximum casualties don't belong on our streets. I don't know why police would be exempt in that case. But she also said that the ban includes a prohibition on some guns that she says are, commonly used for hunting. She says that she wants to work with the patrons to clarify that language. But I have to ask, from a legal perspective, does that give you guys any additional legal ammunition now that the governor has acknowledged at least some of these guns are in fact used for lawful purposes? Commonly used
it's definitely something we can raise, but it'll only apply, of course, to those specific guns. It won't help us on the core issue of, the AR-15s and magazines. But if I had to guess, frankly, I bet you that statement that she's going to work with them to re-legalize those guns is the last we'll ever hear of this. It's just something she said to cover because she knows there's some hypocrisy in what she did. So she's just saying that. If the legislator wanted to fix that, they could have just accepted her amendments, and they didn't. So I don't think there's any interest in fixing it. I think the legislators, the majority is strongly anti-gun. And if anything, they'd want to go further, not scale anything back. So.
I suspect you're right. In fact, I wonder how long it'll be before we see a Rhode Island style confiscation bill introduced in Virginia. So, to that point, essentially all of the guns that are banned under this bill are commonly owned and commonly used for lawful purposes, as the complaint lays out, right?
Yes. This is America's most common rifle. Magazines over, I guess it's 15 rounds in Virginia, not 10, but even so, magazines over 15 rounds are extremely common in the millions, as has been established in a number of cases and a number of studies. And frankly, even the anti-gunners concede that. Their whole argument is, we are awash in guns and, these weapons of war, and now they're going to say in court that they're not common. It's a silly argument, but it is one they make. So yes, these are common arms owned for overwhelmingly lawful purposes. And yes, unfortunately, sometimes they are used for horrible crimes, but the frequency with which they are used for those horrible crimes is much, much lower, extremely rare compared to their lawful uses.
Right. And as the Supreme Court pointed out way back in Heller, handguns are the most common firearm used in crime. But they're also, the most commonly owned firearm for self-defense. And you can't ban an item just because a criminal might use it if it's, again, in common use by individuals for lawful purposes.
Yeah, and this same exact logic applies even more so to the so-called assault weapons. Because remember, handguns, we all agree, frankly, even Democrats claim to believe now that handguns should be mostly legal. And yet handguns statistically are the ones that are used in most crimes. They're also used more for self-defense, of course, and other lawful purposes. But if you were going to ignore a constitutional law and just make a policy argument, then your argument would be on handguns, not rifles, which, are used in a tiny fraction of all homicides in this country.
Yeah, now we actually have gun control advocates arguing that handguns are the only arms protected by the Second Amendment.
Yes, it's an absurd reversal of their historical positions. Yeah.
Which may explain why the Associated Press ran their hit piece on muskets yesterday.
That was one of the most bizarre things. I'm like, where did they come up with this? Why is this out today? Associated Press usually covers breaking news, and they just have this random pot shot at old muskets that I think I found out yesterday. The last time one was used in a crime was in the year 2000. So it's been 26 years since the last crime with one of those. And I'm really interested to see what that crime was. But
right? Yeah, no kidding. All right, so getting back to this this complaint filed in federal court, one of the challenges is that the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Virginia, they've already upheld Maryland's ban on so-called assault weapons in large capacity magazines, which is something that the complaint acknowledges
Yes.
right from the get-go, right? Um, is in a way, Kostas, is that helpful towards, at least in terms of a getting this case up quickly to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, and look, I think, a lot of people might have a sense of bravado, like, oh, we'll see you in court and this and that. And we said that too. Of course, we will see them in court. But it's important to be clear-eyed about where we are here, as our complaint is. This is going to be a tough battle because the Fourth Circuit law, barring a surprise change in the composition of the Fourth Circuit that flips the majority, which I don't expect, and frankly, I don't want anything terrible to happen to the Fourth Circuit judges, of course, then what we're left with is the need for the Supreme Court to do something. So that means likely, we'll have to lose our way up. That could be quicker. It might, Virginia will presumably file a motion to dismiss. We'll make our arguments, but acknowledge, yes, we have to lose based on the controlling law. And then we'll appeal our way through the Fourth Circuit and then to the Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if that's guaranteed, though. It could be Virginia will try and slow things down and say, no, we don't want to do a motion. We want to do discovery and blah, blah, blah and nonsense. I don't know what their strategy is going to be. Maybe they will want to slow walk it to try and wait out the Supreme Court. We'll have to see. But anyone thinking this is going to be some sort of quick win, unless we get a cert grant or not even a cert grant, because that'll be decided in a year from now, but unless we get some sort of crazy per curiam in one of the hardware cases, there's not going to be a quick solution to this. I'm telling you this as a member of SAF, an employee of SAF who is suing them. We're hopeful, but there isn't a silver bullet here. So please support us in our fight. Support the other orgs suing, also in state court. But if anyone's telling you that this is going to be a fast win, they're lying to you. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and we have seen some bravado, I think, from some pro-Second Amendment politicians who've said, well, this is a foregone conclusion. You look at what the court said in Bruin, and I mean, listen, as long as the Supreme Court has not accepted a hardware case, it's not a foregone conclusion,
yes,
frankly,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And then, the other angle to this is that Harmeet Dillon, head of the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ, has been pretty vocal that the federal government is going to get involved here in litigating. We haven't seen a complaint filed, but again, it's been less than maybe at this point 12 hours since Spanberger signed this bill into law. You all had that complaint ready to go, as I said. But, if DOJ files a separate suit, how does that impact your litigation? Would those cases likely be combined together?
I'm not sure where exactly they'll file and what that will entail, so I don't want to speculate too much, but it's very possible they could be consolidated or coordinated to move up together in the system. The advantage of the DOJ lawsuit, it doesn't magically flip the Fourth Circuit,
right?
But the advantage of the DOJ lawsuit is that it makes cert far more likely, because as we know, the Supreme Court tends to favor the Department of Justice's cert petitions over that of private groups. A big reason Wolford got granted was because of an amicus brief from the federal government, because we know the Supreme Court doesn't like to grant preliminary injunction cases normally. There are no guarantees, and I really, really hope that the Supreme Court isn't going to wait for the Fourth Circuit cases to make their way up to them, and that they decide based on one of either the pending hardware cases or the upcoming Third or Seventh Circuit rulings. But if we are in the situation where they want to wait even longer, then the backup plan of the DOJ lawsuit together with ours would be a good backup vehicle if we have to go there.
Okay, yeah, I saw Hannah Hill from National Association of Gun Rights. I love the Monday morning segments that you and her do with William Kirk from Washington Gun Law. She basically it was not a rah-rah post. It was essentially, listen, if the Supreme Court denies cert to these hardware cases, it's not the end of the world. There are other cases in the pipeline. Even if the court granted cert to one of these cases next year, it would still be within Justice Kavanaugh's, this term or next term qualification that he made after the Bianchi case, Snope versus Maryland. The Maryland assault case was denied cert. And so we do have some other opportunities, right? I mean, you mentioned the Third Circuit. Oral arguments were held in that case more than 6 months ago. We're all just sort of waiting for that decision to come down. And we expect that we're going to get a good decision out of the Third Circuit en banc. Seventh Circuit, meanwhile, we expect we're going to get a bad decision, right? But one that we could appeal. I mean, that's one of the intricacies here is if New Jersey loses their challenge or the case, dealing with their assault weapons ban and their magazine ban, do they appeal to the Supreme Court or do they take the loss to try to keep that case away from SCOTUS, right?
I know there's a lot of speculation around that. I've been firmly of the opinion, and I could be proven wrong, that while they may make strategic choices on other issues, this is the hill they will die on. They will not take a loss on assault weapons ban, especially when I think New Jersey knows there's not much to gain. Let's say they don't appeal it to protect other states' assault weapons bans. Well, they know the Seventh Circuit's about to rule against us. We still have our circuit split whether or not New Jersey appeals it.
Right.
So I think they realize that they won't have much to gain anyway, so they may as well appeal and be seen to their base, their anti-gun bases fighting for gun control, even in that circumstance. So I don't think there will be an issue there. I could be proven wrong, but yeah, we'll have to see. And I don't like to count our chickens before they hatch. I know the Third Circuit is expected to go our way, but until I have that ruling, I'm not going to assume it will. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Last question for you. Is there any avenue for this district court judge in Virginia to say the Fourth Circuit got it wrong in Snope? And you know what? I'm gonna reopen this issue about whether or not these arms are protected by the Second Amendment or whether they're like machine guns and therefore all fall outside of the Second Amendment's protections.
In my initial impression, I don't see an avenue for that because the Fourth Circuit law is controlling. What you might see is a district court ruling complaining and saying the Fourth Circuit got it wrong. These are common arms. They're protected, but I'm bound by this decision. I'm going to say they got it wrong and go ahead and appeal up, so he can basically offer his opinion. But at the same time, unless I'm missing something, and I'll defer to our outside counsel too, the excellent lawyers who are going to be working on that case alongside us, they might have a different thought. But unless I'm missing something, I don't think there's an avenue for that. Where you could see the federal lawsuits shaken up, I don't know much about Virginia state courts. I know that they just gave a surprise good ruling in the gerrymandering case. Is it possible that the Virginia courts might upend this and moot the federal cases? It could be. I don't know enough about that, and maybe you'll have someone on next week. I don't know that could talk more about the state side of things.
Yeah, that lawsuit filed in Washington County, which is a pretty conservative part of the state, and we have seen some good rulings on under 21
Right.
carry laws and gun sale laws coming from circuit courts, the universal background check law coming out of Lynchburg Circuit Court. I think so I would not frankly be surprised if we saw a circuit court judge actually grant an injunction against enforcement. I think the challenge, though, is going to be by the time this case gets up to the Virginia Supreme Court, the Democrats are likely to have had the opportunity to replace one of the more conservative justices on the Virginia Supreme Court with somebody more to their liking.
Understood.
So, long term, I don't know how successful that challenge will be. Short term, though, it may actually provide gun owners some relief. But yeah, that's
there you go.
Lori next week. And again, I'm looking forward to continuing our conversations in the future. You will be with Hannah and William on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, our grim march continues. At this point, I'm very pessimistic, but I'm hopeful that SCOTUS blog, of all people, is correct, that something's brewing there. Oh, and I just want to say one last thing. When I said no silver bullet earlier, I wasn't considering the state courts. Pray for a silver bullet from the state courts. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
So I don't want to mislead people. Maybe there will be something great happening. We'll have to see. I meant in federal court.
Sure.
So,
All right. Yeah. Well, Kostas, I know we'll be talking again very soon. Thanks again for being a part of this special Friday edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. We'll let you get back to work. I got to get back to writing, and we'll see you on Monday morning on Washington Gun Law.
Thanks, Cam. You have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks. You too. Kostas Moros here on Bearing Arms Cam and Company.